Now, please help me welcome to the stage marketing expert, podcaster, and speaker, Ben Roberts.
Hello, Shemai, sut wyt ti? Dwi'n siarad Cymraeg? No, I'm not. I thought I'd add a bit of multilingual stuff, seeing as we're in France, and actually Wales is the best place in the world apart from France, obviously. So no, I'm not going to present in Welsh, and that was actually the limit of my Welsh. Even though I am born and bred in Wales, I do sound very English. I am so sorry. So, how to create a selling system based on authority and around a common thread. Sounds pretty exciting, right? So, before I get into that, who am I? So, look, this guy's a really young millennial. Yeah, I don't know if I've got a lot in common with him. So, just basically, head of marketing at a tech company, a startup in the UK, in Wales still, called Talkative. I host a podcast. We're now about 90 episodes on that, which is the Marketing Buzzword Podcast. Published my first book in March, which was really exciting. And last year I was named Wales' #1 businessman under 35, which was, we haven't quite got the population of France, but I'm counting that down as a notable achievement. And obviously I speak at a lot of conferences as well. So, let's look at this, how we're moving from this world of, away from a world of blatancy and intrusion to one of authenticity. And we started with ads, say 1950s. Let's look at that, go back to 1950s. Started with ads, TV, radio, print. Very much one-way communication. Okay? This is where businesses were putting stuff out there. We didn't really have a way of responding, especially not instantaneously. And then over time, there's been lies, mistruths presented, and people don't trust adverts through TV, radio, though they used to. He's not saying these platforms don't work anymore, but they're changing. We move into email marketing. Everyone loved email marketing for a while, yeah? We were informing people of all our latest products, spamming them. Yeah, because we didn't know any better. Email marketing was amazing because we could literally target exact people. We were starting with adverts where we were going broad. Email marketing meant that we could actually go straight into people's inboxes. But the problem was that, over time, people started getting spam, and people stopped responding. People stopped interacting with email messages. And we love the fact that GDPRs come in now, which means actually our inboxes have less spam in them, and we're able to get rid of these messages that we don't want anymore. PPC, great tool again. The problem with PPC is that people feel like they're being stalked around the internet. Yeah, it's amazing for us as businesses, but sometimes as consumers, we feel like we're being followed around the internet. We don't want to be followed around, especially if you say you're about to propose to your girlfriend, you've looked for engagement rings in non-private mode, and suddenly that's popping up because you share a laptop with her, and there's all these engagement rings are popping up. Yeah? We're starting looking at that, and then we talked about cookies earlier with browsers. Social media marketing. We thought we did that really well for ages. Yeah, we were posting stuff out there all the time. We were posting loads. And then for a while we started realizing, actually, look, this isn't really creating communities. This isn't helping us boost sales. And now we're getting better at that. We're starting to look at actually using groups more, communities, having conversations with people. We're getting better, but it's not quite there. But the real-time interaction, the real-time communication means as we move through the communication becomes more two-way. And now we're entering something called really exciting, a nice buzzword for you here. And if you notice, the Marketing Buzzword Project is something that I've been working on. And I've called it the interview era. Really exciting stuff. So the interview era. Essentially, in the interview era, people need to focus on their personal brands and networks in a way that aligns with their business. Yeah? Everyone's interviewing everyone these days. We're moving in a way that... Okay, let's ask a question to you guys. How many of you have been interviewed on some sort of platform, be it traditional media or new media, social media? Yeah? How many of you hadn't done that before the last 6 months? So 6 months ago, had any of you done that? Hardly any of you, yeah? There's a couple, yeah? Now what we're saying is, how many of you are using or viewed live videos, or even non-live, just watched an interview with someone, be it on YouTube, social media, or even read an interview on any print medium? Come on, everyone's pretty much got... There's a few people that are lying here. I'm watching you guys. So in this interview here, everyone's interviewing everyone. People are listening to podcasts. People are reading all this content online. So how do we actually leverage this interview era in order to grow our business? And it comes through influence and authority. And we must find a common thread that ties us together. So when you go out there and you speak on a stage, you're a guest on a podcast, you do an interview for a blog post or a channel, how does that tie back to your business? Do people really know what you stand for? Over time, the more interviews you do, the more influence and authority you generate. So in this content, you're able to put out there your thoughts, your ideas, your expertise, your experience, and how that all fits together and ties back into your business through a common thread. Don't worry, I'm going to go into all these common threads in a second, because you're going, what is this common thread? I'm just going to give you the backstory so you hopefully get a gist of what I'm saying. And obviously, the big part of that is personal brands. Now, if you imagine, I know our brands are not the center of the universe, okay? We used to think that brands were the center of the universe. We now know it's pretty much Google or Facebook or anything else. Our brand is somewhere out here. But if we imagine we zoomed in and this is our brand in the middle, we have this much reach from our brand. Now, how do we access these other markets, these other audiences that our brand maybe struggles to reach? Because ultimately, when we hire people internally, we hire people who are of a similar cultural fit, who have a similar mind to us. So how do we actually change the perception? How do we reach new audiences when everyone in the business is exactly like us? We're like, everyone knows this audience. How do we reach new people? And it's building the personal brands. And now this is the personal brands of people within your organization and external to your organization, okay? Really important thing. Personal brands are not just something that we can just think about. This is something we can actually leverage in order to grow our businesses. And we need to rethink how we interact with our customer base. Because from these personal brands, this is how we're starting to have more and more conversations. This is how more and more people are accessing our brands. Whether you work in a B2B environment or a B2C environment, people are finding your business because of people and not because of the brand anymore. Now, I'm not saying the brand has no impact. Yeah, the brand has an incredible amount of impact. But with how are we reaching these new people? Because people don't necessarily always trust brands, especially if they haven't heard of them before, but they trust people. We go back to what Mike was saying earlier and Yuvan was saying earlier. People trust people. And even if we can look at actually how things are developing in terms of the mistrust of influencers, but people do trust people over time. So how do we think about how we, as individuals, being used by our brands, and how can we develop our brands by being more people and developing our personal brands? So here we are. What is a common thread? Okay. There are three traits to a common thread. And I'll give you some examples in a second. Something that your business can be known for. Known, I want to highlight, yeah? Because some people are like, we want to be famous to everyone, especially when you talk about personal brands. So take a picture. People say, I want to be famous. I build a personal brand. I want to be interviewed. I want to be like I'm a Mark Zuckerberg. I want to be that sort of person. It's not about that. As a brand or as a person, it's about becoming known. And this is, as a trait, it's something that people will echo back to you. So when people talk about your brand, I want to just a very quick show of hands. How many people think that their brand has one or two things that people can go, yeah, that's what we stand for. That's what we believe in. Yeah, there's not very many. And this is what I really want us to think about today is how can we have something that people will echo back to us and really know our business for? And as personal brands, externally and internally from the business, are we working with influencers who are of that same mind, who believe in that similar thing? So trying to make sure that, again, we have the influencers that are really right for our business. We use tools like social bakers, or as Mike was saying earlier, making sure we find the right influencers that align with our business. Long-term mindset. The trait with a common thread is that it has to last a period of time. Yeah, what you can't do is a common thread isn't something that is fleeting, where you suddenly go, we believe in this week, we believe in this next week. You have to have something that you can actually believe in and build over time. Because remember, personal brands only work over time as well. You can't just suddenly build a personal brand overnight. I think the quote that comes to mind is, an overnight success was 10 years in the making. These are the sort of things we need to think about, actually having that long-term mindset. And that only works, again, if we're tied into business goals. Because if it's not tied into the business goals, people don't start understanding how to impact upon the business. So when you go out there and you leverage the interview economy and the interview era, how does it all fit in together? How can you leverage the interviews and a common thread in order to grow your business, using influencers externally and internally? You have to tie all those three things together. An example of a common thread. I love this. Who else here is a cider drinker? We've got a few cider drinkers. These guys are coming out of New Zealand, and they're growing massive. If you haven't heard of them, go and check them out. And their thread that they're really pushing at the moment is about environmental sustainability. Yeah, it's a trend, and it's a thing that we are all really empowered by at the moment. And we've got a lot of millennials here. We've got any Gen Zers? Oh, they really care about the environment, though, don't they? And it's true, though. People really care about this stuff. And as you're building a business around this thread, the thread of environmental sustainability, they're using mediums like adverts, marketing messaging based around the environment. They've got an amazing advertising campaign out at the moment. Just check it out on YouTube. It shows about how they're developing their brand around environmental sustainability. And the messaging is simply that buying Old Malt cider is an environmental choice, and it also tastes good. Because what do we want from a drink? Actually, we're in an age where we care about the environment. Tick, big tick, we like that. Oh, and it tastes good. Yeah, because we're buying drinks. We want them to taste good. Yeah, it's quite simple. And the result is a brand with heart that resonates with the customer base. It's really simple. This is how we start building this common thread. So the example is environmental sustainability is a common thread. And here are some other examples that you could potentially use. Sporting success, environmental sustainability. I know there's a few beauty brands here. So natural beauty, is that the thing that you really stand for? Is it something that you go, this brand believes in natural beauty? Health and well-being, leadership development. There are brands out there that really empower people to become better people, to become the best versions of themselves. Leadership development, all these things. What is your common thread? Something they'll echo back to you. They'll go, this is what that business stands for. And as a personal brand, you also believe in that. So when you go out there and you leverage the interview economy and this interview era, then it's shown that you align yourself with those brands and that individual. So everything ties in together. And we look at the internal versus external personal brands within this. Okay, so this is some of the internal influencers and external influencers. Because remember, influencers aren't just outside the business. There can be influencers within the business itself. Internal personal brand. There's quite a clear link to the brand. Someone who works within the business has a clear link. There's consistency. They work for the brand. They're not just going to be promoting 16. That we took the example with The Rock earlier. Yeah, we're not going to have 20, 30 different brands. It's quite clear that this person has consistency. Progressive business. Actually putting the people in their business out there. They're showing things a little bit differently. Sorry, I'm very much a walker. Ease of training as well. People when you work within an organization, it's easier to train people in understanding your common thread and common messaging. Outside of business, it's actually potentially more difficult to find people that really resonate and believe in what you do. Not impossible, but that ease of training means that actually you can build this common thread throughout people in your organization so they all understand what your business stands for, who they work for, because you should be hiring for culture. You should be hiring for people that really believe in what your company does or believes that it can help people. When we look at externally, extends beyond the borders. We looked at earlier, that little graphic I showed with the balls, with the extended reach. This is why we work with influencers. It's why we work with people with growing personal brands outside of our business, because it extends the reach of our brands. Seen as independent. Yeah, because people don't always trust brands. And even if you've got a personal brand, a person who is in your organization, people necessarily always have a little bit cynical because they're just saying this because they work for that company. So maybe you look at someone who's independent from outside the organization. Unique styles, we talked about this earlier as well. Each person, every single individual on this planet has their own unique style. That is something that you should absolutely encapsulate. And again, as long as it's related to this common thread, so what do you stand for? They can create their own content in their own way. And as long as it comes back to the business, allow them to have that unique style. Don't dictate to them. You have to do a certain type of post or a certain style. That doesn't work. That's not inauthentic. This is why we have that distrust with influencers. Think about how that unique style fits into your business and instant impact. Because again, when we looked at the massive things where you have massive macro influencers, even micro influencers, how do they all fit in together? Because you can have a real quick impact upon your business because they already have established personal brands within that. So now some ideas to leverage this interview economy. internal and external personal brands. So people within your organization leveraging interviews to grow your personal brand, leveraging external people to your thing. How can we get them to be interviewed so we can leverage our personal brands again? Podcasting, YouTube, social media. Honestly, I'm not going to try and read them all out. You've all got eyes. But it's the idea that you can do any which one of these. It doesn't have to be any one. Some people love podcasting. Me, I've got a face for podcasting, so I do that, yeah? I've not got a face for YouTube, so I stay well away. Other people, there are some very pretty people here. YouTube, potentially yours, yeah? I'm not saying you have to be pretty to do YouTube. It's completely up to you. It's how you feel comfortable within that. Some people like to write, so they'll do it on website and blogs. They'd like to interview someone and literally write it all up. Imagine that. You have massive SEO gains from that. You can repurpose all this content. You create a video on YouTube, you can repurpose that as a podcast. You can then write all that up and have a website and a blog. These are how you can leverage the interview economy, showing knowledge over time, which allows you to become recognized in your space around this common thread. So how do we create a system of selling? Because this is what's really important. How do we actually then turn this into tangible sales? And how do we actually get more of these interviews to help spread the knowledge and extend the reach of our brands? That's knowledge of product. So let's use an example I think I was speaking to someone earlier about is about veganism. Yeah? And it's about a vegan lifestyle. And it's knowledge of the product. So if you have a certain product that fits into a vegan lifestyle, why does it fit into a vegan lifestyle? How does it fit in? Where does it all work within the context of being a vegan? Because this is what people are talking about at the moment. So knowledge of the market. What's happening with the market? There's a shift towards vegan lifestyles. There's a shift in there to people thinking about palm oil. So there was the advert with the orangutans, which Iceland did, which got banned, which actually ended up making that an incredibly successful campaign. It's a knowledge of the market. How are things changing within there? These are all things that you can talk about with interviews across the interview economy. This is how you can showcase your brand in a great light. You talk about changing the market. Talk about trends within the market. So again, think about vegan lifestyle as our common thread. Can we talk about Extinction Rebellion? Can we talk? How does that all fit into a vegan lifestyle? Do we talk about actually I was talking to someone else the other day about actually flying fruit and veg over out of season to your country to eat. Now, actually, how does that all fit into a lifestyle? So actually, can we talk about trends and people are talking about this? How can we leverage news and information to grow our personal brands internally and externally through that common thread? Of audience, who are these people? These are millennials and Gen Zs primarily that are driving this forward. They're not the only people, but they're the ones who are driving it forward. So who is your target audience? How can you talk to them in a way that they actually care about? Again, it doesn't have to be, vegan lifestyle is just an example. Just think about these common threads that you can have in your business and how you can potentially leverage that to the product, the market, the trends, and the audience. So how do we create this system of selling? And it is just you follow this 5-step process. So what is your common thread? What do you mean? So let's use the natural beauty example again. Natural beauty. That is what we believe in. Identify the influencers. Who are the people? So using tools like Social Bakers, using anything else you want. How do we identify those individuals that will really help us and buy into that common thread of natural beauty? What are some of the common messaging and common themes around that common messaging? How do we make sure that they can use their own unique styles, but actually it sort of fits into the business and how it all works together? Freedom and flexibility. Remember, you've got to let them do their own thing. And as long as it comes back to that common thread and there's some common messaging in there, you're reducing that risk. Because that's what people said, when Mike talked about it earlier as well. That propensity to risk with it working with influencers actually is only as high as the idea in itself. You stimulate conversations around that. We have comments. We try and actually have more conversations around the themes, the trends that we talked about in the last slide. And then we measure and evaluate. So again, depending on the goals of your business, how do we measure this? Now, this could be simply a number of backlinks or domain authority of backlinks that you get from the interviews. It could be the number of interviews. It could be the size of outlets. It could be actually using UTM tracking codes when you speak to these influencers and actually get them to post stuff that actually you're able to track this data back to your website. There are a huge amount of ways in which you can measure and evaluate this stuff. It doesn't have to be advertising equivalent value. Yeah, that metric is kind of old now. We can actually tangibly measure the results of this stuff through tracking codes and domain authority, anything like that, depending on the goals of your business and your organization. There's another example of a thread, just sort of as I start rounding this up. There's a guy called, has everyone seen River Cottage? I know it's a really rogue example. It's very much a British thing. Okay, so River Cottage basically it's a cottage in the southwest of England, and essentially they started a TV show. And it's a TV show about healthy food. That's their common thread, healthy food. And they basically then started a TV show. They started doing events around there. They started doing cookery schools. They started producing books all about healthy food. And they're a cottage. They didn't have any financial backing or firepower, but they made a couple of connections and they managed to get a TV show to talk all about healthy food. And now it's really known all across the UK for being a really healthy food where you can grow. It's like a small holding, just like a half a farm essentially, where they grow their own food. Messaging is basically healthy eating can be done from home. It tastes better, it can save you money, and also it's better for the environment and your health. Yeah, really, really simple stuff. Again, the thread is healthy food. Short, snappy, to the point. Any sales increase, revenue streams, exposure, authority, whatever the goals of your business are, you can find that your common thread will have a tangible impact upon any of those. So a quick roundup from me. This is the book that I came out in March. I've got a load of copies with me. If anyone does want a book, I'm going to give them out to you guys for free. So if you do want a copy of that, if I don't have any, you unfortunately have to buy them from Amazon. But yeah, Marketing Buzzword to Marketing Authority, and it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to get in contact with me, please do. Thank you very much.